Welcome to the 30/30 Health Podcast. The following discussion is for education and entertainment. It is not intended to diagnose or treat disease. Please do not apply any of this information without first discussing it with your doctor. Here is your host, Guillermo Ruiz.
Hello everyone, today's guest is Drew Manning from Fit2Fat2Fit. Drew is well known for documenting his journey where he purposely gained 75 pounds and then dieted and exercised back to health to gain a better understanding of what his clients experience by being overweight. Drew's passion for sports and fitness began at an early age. In college, he gained experience through classes in sports that inspired him to become a certified personal trainer through NASM. Drew began training clients on both proper nutrition and workout plans to help them achieve their fitness goals. Drew shares his comprehensive fitness knowledge through his podcast, speaking engagements, and his website, Fit2Fat2Fit.com. Thank you for listening to the show. If you have any suggestions or any comments, drop me a line on my website, 3030strong.com. I'll be sure to reply. You can also follow me on Instagram. My handle is 3030strong, 3030strong. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey guys, I'm here with Drew Manning, and I met Drew at PaleoFX. Drew, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, Guillermo. How are you?
Just having fun, dude. And other than Chris Masterjohn, I think you say my name better than 99.9% of the paleo population.
Yeah, I was trying to think about that. Well, because, I understand how it's pronounced. I mean, I lived in Brazil for 2 years, which is Portuguese, but at the same time, you got to pronounce things right. And if you don't, you sound like an idiot. So, I try my best.
Oh, and your best is perfect. I just wanted my listeners, so I was on the big stage at PaleoFX this year. And just walking around, everyone seems so famous, and it's just so cool to hang around with like, oh, my heroes. And every once in a while, I just walk into the green room. And one time, I walk into the green room, and Drew Manning is there. And I'm like, oh, shit, Drew Manning is here. And I just approach, and I introduce myself. And Drew Manning started talking to me like we had known each other for the past 20 years. And this dude is so cool. And it just, this community makes you feel like so welcomed. And it's so amazing to have people like you out there helping people get better. But in true 30/30 health fashion, Drew, what is your hero story? How did you arrive, into this place and to this moment?
Yeah, so most people know me for my Fit2Fat2Fit journey, which kind of I'll talk to that. Like, first of all, I grew up in a family of 11 brothers and sisters, and we were all active. I played football and wrestling since I was little age, and so for me, weight was never an issue. Food cravings were never an issue. I was always that in-shape dude, right? I became a personal trainer part-time in 2009 as I was working full-time in the medical field, and I had a disconnect between my clients and I. I was this dude who had grown up his entire life in shape, and here I was trying to help people who had grown up their entire life out of shape. And there was a huge disconnect because I would get so frustrated when they would tell me, Drew, I didn't follow the meal plans like you said to. I had soda even though you told me not to, or like I didn't get to the gym even though you gave me the workouts. I'm like, well, why don't you just do it? It's not that hard. All you do is stop eating the junk food, put down the soda, go to the gym. Why is it so hard? And they'd be like, well, you don't understand, man. For you, it's easy. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. It is easy. Why is it easy for me but hard for you? And so I felt like I needed to learn a lesson as a trainer. And so I was thinking of ideas of ways I could connect to my client. The idea of getting fat on purpose, as crazy as that sounds, made sense to me. And I felt like this is the journey I need to embark on. So I went on this crazy journey where for 6 months, I let myself go completely. I stopped working out. I ate whatever I wanted to. And I put on 76 pounds of pure fat in 6 months' time. And then the next 6 months, right, I had to lose that weight through a very humbling process. And yes, I did get back to fit. But that's kind of my story in a nutshell. And that story went viral, was on Jay Leno, Dr. Oz, Good Morning America, all these TV shows talking about this crazy personal trainer dude. And that's kind of what most people know me as now, is the Fit2Fat2Fit guy.
And those pictures, those before and after pictures are insane.
Yeah, they are crazy, man. At 75 pounds, you can't hide. It's funny. People still think it's photoshopped. I'll post it today. All the time, people think it's photoshopped.
And it's really funny because like that story of the dad bod, and like all of this, high school athletes that, because of life, just stop working out, or, they think they can continue eating a teenage diet, and they end up with this, this person who might have the muscle mass, but that muscle mass is very well insulated with a nice thick layer of fat. Before we move on into how do you arrive to the ancestral or paleo or keto, what were some of like the first? What was the worst meal that you had? And second, mentally, did it change you? Did you have more trouble getting back to the fit part after, what were some obstacles to your health?
Yeah. So first of all, let me walk you through the journey of gaining the weight. Like honestly, it was fun. It was fun to let myself go. Like it really was. I could go to the grocery store, skip the produce section, go down the cereal aisle. I mean, there's hundreds of brands of cereals and crackers and cookies. So honestly, I would eat, typical standard American foods that we grew up on in the 80s. Things like Cinnamon Toast Crunch and Mountain Dew and SpaghettiOs and Hot Pockets and macaroni and cheese and white bread and white pasta and like Doritos and Pringles and all these things that we've grown up on. I just ate that every single day for 6 months. I didn't eat fast food a lot. I didn't do a Morgan Spurlock, right? People thought I would do that, but I didn't do the Morgan Spurlock supersize me thing. I had fast food once a week because I wanted to show people just how unhealthy the typical American diet is. All these highly processed foods like chips and cookies and crackers and sodas, all these things that we don't think are that bad for us, that we overconsume because they're convenient, they're affordable, and honestly, they taste good. Like I'll be honest with you, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, I could eat all day because it tastes freaking good. But it is very addicting, and that's what the struggle was for me when I transitioned from fit to fat, now fat to fit, losing the weight. My body went through hell. Like I had never experienced withdrawal symptoms ever in my life. Like, I kind of imagine it'd be similar to a drug addict getting off of drugs. I've never been through that, but the withdrawals that my body was going through, my body wanted that high from those foods. And now I was feeding it things like spinach and broccoli and kale and chicken and all these healthy foods, right? Like real food. And my body fought back.
You incorporate a couple of juices too.
Yeah, I do. Well, I did a spinach shake, which is one of my, famous recipes. It's spinach, half a banana, a couple tablespoons of peanut butter, whey protein, and unsweetened almond milk and ice. You blend it up. It's the most delicious thing in the world. 99% of people like it, even people that don't like vegetables.
About how many calories in that?
Probably like 300 to 400. So it's a good meal replacement.
And the bulk of that, will get, hit those leptin receptors and, you feel full.
Yeah, because it's got good quality fat in there from, the peanut butter and the protein. You're getting, a little bit of carbs from the banana, but not a lot. And so, yeah, and it tastes good too.
So then, I remember, this is back in 2011, and I remember following your, getting a hold of, somehow, someone shared something and I was following your journey and I was waiting for you to go from the fat to fit. And I remember you just like, you started posting every single meal that you ate. And I thought to myself, man, if this dude, you were eating like 6 times a day, I was like, if he could simplify his life and, now, like I told Drew outside of, before we started, recording, he looks way better than me. So I have nothing to, like my opinion matters nothing. But I kept thinking to myself, because I was in this paleo movement and I was like, man, if we could grab this dude and bring him into the dark side and help me convince, my family and friends that you can do this. Because like you said, you never had that second, that going from fat to fit originally. You were always fit. I, on the other hand, I was a chubby kid and I don't have a sweet tooth. So, Cinnamon Toast Crunch doesn't interest me at all. But you open a bag of barbecue chips or you open a bag of, or pizza, forget about it.
Yeah.
I can eat a whole pie. And sometimes people tell me, oh, it's all genetic. And I'm like, I get offended a little bit because I work hard to not be overweight, because my genes are not the best and more resilient genes. How did you break your sweet tooth? Do you have a sweet tooth? And what was the hardest thing to just like eliminate and the last craving that you had or you still have?
Yeah, no, I don't have a sweet tooth. I'm more of a, chips and baked goods like breads and muffins and pizza. Like those are my go-to things. Like even though Cinnamon Toast Crunch was sweet, I wouldn't say like that was my go-to, like my addiction. But like, what's a good one? Pringles. It's true. Once you pop, you can't stop, man. You can't just eat one, right? You got to have a whole thing. So those were like my go-to things. Top ramen too. Like I know it
Oh,
sounds
wow.
disgusting. It sounds disgusting, but I actually had some of that as a kid because we had 11 kids and we were kind of poor. Like, so we had to eat cheap food, and that was the cheapest food you could get, right? So that those kinds of things, those taste buds were there. But like honestly, now I really don't have those cravings so much anymore. Like every time I pass Cinnamon Toast Crunch in the grocery store, I'm like, oh man, that would be so good just to chow down on one of these big bowls. But I don't give into those. I know I do eat pizza. I do eat, ice cream every once in a while with my girls. I have two daughters. We have desserts together. I'm not like this, extremist that lives in a cave that never eats anything processed ever again. But it's 90% healthy and 10% whatever.
Are you out of Utah?
Yeah, I live in Utah.
Dude, Cerebello's.
What's that?
Cerebello's in Salt Lake City.
I don't think I've ever been there, man.
Dude, they have a gluten-free pizza, and
Really?
next door to the Cerebello's place, they have a gelato place.
Okay, I'm putting this in my notes right now.
Yeah, and yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay, that's on my list, dude.
Okay, so then how did you end up in this paleo space or in this ancestral space? I don't even know what to call it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, being in the health and fitness industry, I just kind of evolved with what I was learning from podcasts and other people in the industry. And so I remember I had the chance to work with Chris Powell. If he was on, he used to have a TV show called Extreme Weight Loss on ABC. It had 5 seasons running. They invited me on as a guest trainer, and I remember at that time I was kind of more into the paleo thing. I read this book by Melissa Hartwig and Dallas Hartwig called "It Starts with Food," and I'm like, okay, this makes so much more sense. And so I started to move over into like the paleo world. And so, I mean, honestly, I was mostly eating paleo except for grains every now and then. And let's see what else. The peanut butter thing, yeah. I was already eating paleo-ish, but and then I remember talking to Chris Powell, like when I was on the show, and he's like, "Dude, I'm a big believer in the paleo thing." And I'm like, "You are?" I'm like, "Really? That's awesome, man!" And then that kind of helped me, kind of push me even further into more hardcore paleo, even though I wasn't preachy about it. I would, but the thing that I was preachy about it was getting people through this kind of 30-day reset of no grains, dairy, or sugar. Just do it for 30 days, see how your body feels. And then as you re-implement those things one thing at a time, see how your body reacts. And if you have an adverse reaction, which most people do, especially to things like dairy or grains, then that's probably not the best thing for you. And you need to maybe, find healthier options. And so that's what I was helping people with. And that's kind of what led me to keto now. So, which we'll get to in a second, but that I would say maybe a year or two after my Fit2Fat2Fit journey, I kind of was in the paleo world, but not really putting that label on me, right? Like, hey, I'm Drew the paleo guy.
And I think that you did a very good job at at not pigeonholing yourself. And I heard your interview with Abel James. This is back in 2012, 2013. So then you decide that you want to take it to the next level. And how did you arrive to the keto or again, it's not a label because it depends on what your workout is, depends on what your goals are. But how did you arrive to this new stage?
Yeah, I remember hearing this guy named Dr. Dominic D'Agostino on the Tim Ferriss podcast, and he did I think a 10-day fast and then went and deadlifted 585 pounds for reps. I'm like, what? I was like, this guy did that after not eating for 10 days? I was like, something's weird here. And so like I was listening to his podcast, but he's a scientist and he's legit, and there's some real science behind the keto diet, whereas before it was kind of underground, a little bit taboo. Even though it's been around since the 1920s, no one's really talking about it in the mainstream health and fitness industry. And then after hearing him, I'm like, well, I do experiments all the time on myself. Why not try this out as an experiment? And here's the thing. I wasn't doing it for fat loss or weight loss or to get more ripped or shredded, which I know a lot of people think, oh, what's the new diet that's going to get me shredded with even less effort, right? Like, what's the easiest way to look that way with the least amount of effort, right? But I did it kind of going into it more for the cognitive benefits, right? The improvement and mental clarity and focus and energy and the cognitive function. And I did it for 60 days. And honestly, for me, it was hard to get used to because I was doing CrossFit, which is very glycolytic. And there was a dip in performance, right? Because I was running off of mostly protein or carbs before. And now here I was either fasting or just running off of fat. And yeah, there was a dip in performance initially, but after about like 2 weeks, my performance was just as good, if not better. My physique was about the same, but my brain was on fire, and I didn't have to eat 6 meals a day. That was the thing. That's the thing I loved about it. Is like, man, I'm not a slave to food. I can eat twice a day, maintain my muscle mass, have great performance in the gym, but my brain is so much sharper and my digestion is better because I'm not having to eat constantly every 3 hours, 6 times a day. My digestive system gets a break. And so these were the benefits that I was noticing, and that's what I loved about the keto diet. And then I kind of got into it and started doing more research. Then I had Dr. Dom on my podcast and a couple other doctors in the industry, and learning as much as I could about it because I was loving the benefits that I noticed from it. And I know that a lot of people look at it, like I said, for weight loss or fat loss.
Or like bro science, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just, that can be a byproduct. But I was looking at the therapeutic applications of how this can help so many people with, from things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's to even like certain forms of cancer. I remember hearing Dr. Dom talk about, I'm like, wow, you can starve cancer cells, with no glucose and they can't run off of ketones. And so anyways, the science now is just super fascinating. You see it trending upwards to where like there's all this new scientific research backing up the keto diet for all these other therapeutic applications.
Now, so one controversial thing is that if you're doing ketogenic, you gotta do just your compound exercises, your squat, your deadlift, your military press, but you really can't tap into that second gear. Have you experienced that in your own personal health?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I have, and like I said, initially there was a dip in performance, and then from there, I've had to tweak it since then. And so what I've kind of found that works for me and a lot of other high level athletes is to put in the work for a good 60 to 90 days of becoming keto adapted. So your performance isn't going to be the same. Your performance might suck for 60 to 90 days, but get keto adapted first. And then from there, once your body's keto adapted and knows how to run off of ketones efficiently, then you start messing around with something called the targeted ketogenic diet, where you can start to cycle in some glucose before your workout. So now you're a dual fuel animal where you're running off glucose first initially to have that extra boost, right? But you're keto adapted to where once you burn that glucose, your body is efficient at using ketones as an energy source. And then your body can shift over from glucose to ketones like nothing. But if you just do keto for like a week and then you eat a bunch of glucose, your body doesn't know how to use those ketones efficiently yet. So what I found that works for a lot of high level athletes, and this is what I was talking about with my friend Craig Priesendorf, who works with MMA fighters. This is what the protocol he was putting them on. And even though MMA or CrossFit are very glycolytic workouts, you can get the benefits of both fuels once you become keto adapted. And so I found that's starting to work for a lot of high level athletes.
Two-part question. Okay, so when we're talking about getting keto adapted, that means eating keto cookies and keto muffins and keto ice cream is keto,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? And then second, can you talk a little bit about how do you partition your protein? Because that can go into a glycolytic pathway, and then that can kick you out of ketosis.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I think there's a right way and a wrong way that people do almost any diet, not just keto, but vegan, paleo, like for example. Yeah, so anytime a diet becomes popular, people will try and fit their favorite foods into that category and say, oh, it's keto cookie, it's keto ice cream, it's keto pizza. Same thing with paleo brownies and paleo muffins. Like, I get it. But at the same time, we can overdo it, right? It's the behavior behind it that's the problem. Like, okay, well, I need to satisfy my sweet tooth, but I'm keto, so I'm going to make a keto cookie. And that happens every single night. And then your calories are probably higher because you're eating a lot of fat, which is 9 calories per gram. So your calories are going to be even higher, and you might not see the results. And I feel like people overdo it with fat bombs and keto cookies and keto desserts of any kind. But it should be treated as a treat, like every once in a while, maybe once a week or twice a week. Still, even though it's keto, you can't just get away with it just because it's keto all the time. So people overdo that, keto desserts. People overdo nuts and seeds, which if you add them up, they are higher in carbohydrates. And then dairy, too much dairy, which can be pro-inflammatory. And so I see people overdoing it with those three things, and that's what stalls their progress. The second question about the protein, yes, you do need to find out what works for you. And this depends on your body fat percentage, how much lean muscle mass you have. For the first 60 to 90 days getting keto adapted, I would recommend staying within that 20 to 25% range first, and keep your carbs at 5%, which is 30 grams or less initially. And then the rest of your calories come from fat. After the keto adaptation phase, I would mess around with testing your blood ketones. You need to invest in maybe $25, $30, ketone meter, and then some ketone strips to go along with that to find what your protein threshold is and then your carb threshold is. So what I mean by that is, okay, you've done it for 60 or 90 days, you're keto adapted. Then let's say you're at like 100 grams of protein, which is kind of like that's all I eat. I know a lot of people in bodybuilder industry is like 200 grams of protein.
How much do you weigh?
About 190.
Okay, so you're like at 0.5 per pound.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm able to maintain my muscle. So we don't need as much protein as we think, but it depends on your goals, right? It's all about context. So what you do is maybe you start 100 grams of protein, like that's like what your 25% looks like. And then from there, go up 5 or 10 grams and test your blood ketone levels, right? And then up at 5 or 10 grams again, test your blood ketone levels an hour later. Same thing with carbs. Let's say you're at 30 grams, go up to 35 the next day and test your blood ketones, and then go up to 40 grams. Honestly, now I could probably get away with 70 grams of carbohydrates, maybe even higher, and still stay in ketosis. So if you're a high level athlete, you have more muscle mass, you can probably get away with more carbs than the average person. The only way to know for sure is to test your blood ketones, which is the gold standard. Otherwise, there's no other way to know for sure how much protein you should be getting in, or carbs. The only way to know for sure is to test.
And then, and it's funny, for the mental clarity aspect of this, I've said it a couple of my podcasts, I do intermittent fasting every day. And it's two reasons: convenience, but secondly, I concentrate better, I can study better. And, I just did 4 years of medical school. It basically, I probably could count how many times I had breakfast in, my two hands. And then, that just gives you this mental clarity, and that lets you become almost like superhuman. It's fantastic. How do you incorporate fasting to your diet?
That's a great question. So I love intermittent fasting. Like right now, it's almost 1 p.m. my time. I've done sprints outside, and I've had coffee and tea and water, some salt, and that's pretty much it. And I feel fine. This is my second podcast I've done today. My brain, my body feels great. So I've messed around with fasting, and I did a 7-day fast in December of last year, and it was the first long extended fasting I've ever done, and it was an awesome experience. Would I do it every month? No, but it was great to know I could go 7 days without food.
Were you doing just water?
Water, bone broth, exogenous ketones, and that's it. No coffee, nothing, actually. And I did that for 7 days. Felt fantastic. The first 2 days obviously were hard because my body's used to eating. I lost 10 pounds. 8 pounds of that were lean mass. And I know people freak out thinking that's muscle. But 5 days later, I got my DEXA scan again of eating. 5 days afterwards of eating, 7 of those 8 pounds of lean mass were gained back. So it wasn't muscle. But I felt fantastic, and I love intermittent fasting now. So usually what I do is I'll do bulletproof coffee in the morning, which isn't true intermittent fasting. It's not a true fast with the fat in there. Then I do lunch and dinner. But for me, like with working out in the morning, I feel great doing that protocol. But the past 4 weeks, I've been experimenting with a 24-hour fast Monday through Friday. So 1 meal per day around dinner time. And then Saturday, Sunday, I go back to those 2 meals, lunch and dinner. And I'm training for a Spartan race right now. And so I'm just kind of experimenting with it, seeing how it goes. And the first week or two actually was really hard to only eat 1 meal per day. But, I was like, okay, is it 5 o'clock yet? Can I eat? But now that I'm 4 weeks in, I feel great. I feel like just as much lean muscle mass. I haven't lost any weight doing it. So
are you covering your calories? Like, are you setting a target for them?
I'm trying to get in 3,000. I don't count a whole lot, but just estimating, it's hard to get in 3,000 calories in one meal, to be honest with you. There's been days where I've been so full where in a way I'm kind of miserable the rest of the night. So I'm like, I don't know if I like this. So I'm kind of lowering it to like 2,500 ish. But like I said, I'm not counting every single calorie. But if I had to estimate, it's probably between 2,000 and 3,000.
My next experiment, now that I have some time, because it's just so easy to just go to school in the morning, not eat, come back at 2, have a meal, then eat later again, and then go to bed. My next experiment. So I've been reading a little bit about how eating late at night, and you just mentioned that you feel uncomfortable. So that pushes your circadian rhythm. I'm going to try to flip my schedule and have breakfast and lunch. And my lunch would be like around 5 o'clock, and trying to reset that circadian rhythm a little bit earlier for me to be able to go to bed earlier and then wake up earlier.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea, and that's what's I think is important for people to take from this is like find what works for you. Do some experimentation on yourself, and that's the only way you can find out what's optimal for you. People might be listening like, oh, well, I want to try that out, and maybe you do, maybe you don't feel so great, but then try something else. Try something that's new that maybe will fit you and your lifestyle better than just listening to someone on a podcast. And so I love that you do experiments on yourself too.
And then, and crazier than that, they'll hear, oh, I'm intermittent fasting, oh, and keto adaptation, oh,
Mm-hmm.
and Spartan races. Now they're gonna try to do their first Spartan race, with a 24-hour fast, eating nothing but paleo cookies because that's the only thing they caught from the podcast.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to do all these different things, and then they fail, and then they'll go
Yeah.
around saying, I tried that already, and it didn't work
for me.
It didn't.
Yeah.
How long do you think the strategies that you take? How long do you try to implement them in your life before you decide this worked?
Yeah, I say give it any new lifestyle. Any new lifestyle you do, whether it's keto or vegan or paleo, vegetarian, whatever it is, give it a minimum of 30 days, probably 6 days optimally to find out if that lifestyle works for you. If you do it for a week and you're like, man, I felt horrible. Well, yeah, your body's adjusting to whatever it is you're trying to do to it. That's why it's hard when people tell me like, yeah, I tried keto for a few days and I just love my carbs. I'm like, I get it. Like, yeah, but you got to give your body time to adjust and adapt to no carbs, right? Like, or 5% carbs. Like, it's really hard. You've been living this way for 30, 40 plus years. And now you're trying to say, okay, no more glucose, only ketones now for energy. And your body's like, what are you doing to me? So any new lifestyle, give it 30 days and measure, like track your progress, track your workouts and how you feel and your sleep. And the more you can track, the more data you'll have for like, okay, how can I tweak this in the future? Now, it doesn't need to become something that's a huge priority where you're counting calories and macros and tracking your sleep and buying all these gadgets. It seems overwhelming to the average person. But maybe just start out slow and be like, okay, I'm going to do one thing first. Because like you were saying, Spartan race, keto, intermittent fasting, 24-hour fast, like all of that all at once is going to be a huge shock to your system if you've been eating pizza and beer and cereal the past 30 years.
So what's the first intervention that you tend to apply to your clients?
Honestly, I start more on the mental and emotional side. Like physically, I could give someone meal plans, I could give them workouts and be like, here, just do it. But honestly, I want to get down to the mental and emotional challenges that they have and helping them overcome them. Now, I don't work with clients one-on-one so much anymore. But what I found works for everybody, for the most part, is if you give them accountability and a support system, no matter what new lifestyle you're trying to promote to them, paleo, keto, whatever it is, if they have accountability to someone and a support system, they're way more likely to follow that lifestyle because they see other people doing it. They see their struggles and their successes, and they're part of a community versus like, hey, here's your meal plans and workouts. Good luck. Like, hopefully it works out for you. And so that's honestly, in my opinion, the mental and emotional side, helping people overcome their challenges. That's where the true battle is won when it comes to embracing a new lifestyle change instead of like, hey, here's another diet program. Try it out.
Yeah, because having that tribe mentality and having that accountability and having someone that is non-judgmental because they're going through the same thing as you're going through. And then the people that are successful, and the people that do change your life, they become like your best cheerleaders, and then they help you help others, and that's how this movement has multiplied, and that's how this movement has expanded and helped so many people. It's amazing.
Yeah, I run a few different Facebook groups, and it's so powerful to see, people are coming in like every day, new people, And the people that have been there a while, that have seen success or struggled, they're the first ones to help those people out. And they're like, hey, welcome to the group. Like, we're so happy to have you, and then they ask a question and they're helping them out because they've been through that. They've been in their shoes. And then those people come on and they start to see some progress and see some results. And then they see these new people come on and they just keep paying it forward. And that's what's so powerful about this tribe, this community of like, hey, let's help each other out. We're all going through this together. Why even try to do it alone? Because you're going to have a day where you're going to struggle or you have no one to talk to about it. So that's what I think is so powerful about social media and technology nowadays. You don't have to have a tribe locally, right, all the time. It can be people all over the world.
And it's a double-edged sword, because just like, we can have great information, we can take great information, process it in an erroneous way, and then spit it out. And now people, want to, use different strategies. And the strategy I'm specifically talking about, and you mentioned it, is exogenous ketones. Okay, so tell my audience, what is the proper way of using exogenous ketones and what is the erroneous way, or what are the do not use this as an intervention?
Sure. Well, I'll start with the do not. Don't use exogenous ketones as a fix-all, a weight loss supplement, weight loss miracle drug where you can eat that or take that and eat whatever you want to and you'll have the six-pack. A lot of people, unfortunately, are using that to promote like, hey, take these ketones. Your body is using fat as fuel and you can eat donuts still and get the benefits of it. That's the wrong way to use exogenous ketones. In my opinion, I use ketones as a pre-workout, right? So you're flooding your body with ketones. It's putting your body in a simulated version of ketosis. It's not the same as nutritional ketosis, right? It's exogenous versus endogenous ketones that your body produces. But it's a great help with the transition from glucose into a keto lifestyle. It's going to help get rid of the keto flu because your body is flooded with these exogenous ketones that it can use as energy versus when you first start out eating keto, your body isn't running off of glucose and isn't fully running off of ketones yet, and that's why your body feels horrible that first maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 days for some people. So the ketones can help with that transition. After that, I think ketones are a great pre-workout fuel, but a great brain boost as well, the cognitive function and mental clarity that you'll receive if you have a long day at the office or a big presentation, or as a meal replacement in a way, like it suppresses your appetite. And so that's some other uses. But even on the scientific side, Dr. Dominic D'Agostino, he runs these studies out of South Florida where testing like the therapeutic applications for exogenous ketones. Yeah, Parkinson's and the neuroprotective benefits for your brain, even if you're not on a keto diet, right? So he tests these Navy SEALs who do these deep sea dives and they come up with brain toxicity and have seizures a lot, but the military isn't looking into like having all their personnel eat a strict ketogenic diet. That's just not possible for all of them. But in the end, like they can take these ketones and then boom, go do this mission and receive the neuroprotective benefits for the brain. I mean, that right there is super valuable. But I think hopefully it made sense as far as when to use it, how to use it, and if you're looking at it from a weight loss, like a gimmick, that's not what it's for.
Yeah, and you can see, an exogenous form of fuel on every single silo of diet. Like for example, the goo packets for people that are that are high carb, low fat. And then like the bodybuilders, the BCAAs, those are so the goo packets is straight glucose, and of course it gives you a high. The BCAAs, like they are like jet fuel, and they taste kind of good, because they're sweet, and now we have this exogenous ketones, and used appropriately, they can give you a boost in performance and they can help you be a better human being. If you use them erroneously, you can get into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with some of the formulas that are out there that, like the first time some people, when they first exogenous ketones came out, they had MCT oil in them. And people, if they're not used to MCT oil, Trust me, if you consume too much, man, you're running to the bathroom.
Yeah, it gets a little shitty.
Yeah, exactly. Literally.
Literally. Okay, and then another thing you mentioned during your fast. So I do bone broth fasts every once in a while. The first person that I ever heard say this was Dr. Michael Ruscio. And Dr. Ruscio recommends doing this broth fast like every once in a while, but he only recommends doing it for like 3 days. So I do a bone broth fast, 3 days, nothing but bone broth. And again, mental clarity. You lose if you're trying to get into like bikini season, swimsuit season. It's a good way of losing a little bit of fat. But you also sometimes get a little bit like lightheaded when you don't have the glycogen, because glycogen attracts sodium, which keeps you helps you maintain the volume of blood. So when you're peeing all this glycogen and or in that sodium, your blood pressure falls. So you mentioned that you take salt. Have you ever messed around with other electrolytes?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I'm trying to think which ones that come to mind right now. Like I have taken magnesium citrate, when I first did keto, potassium as well. But I found like some of the best forms of electrolytes are, black Hawaiian salt, pink Himalayan sea salt, Celtic sea salt is a very nutrient dense one. I recently had this Dr. Di Nicolo Antonio, who's the author of The Salt Fix, on my podcast, and he was mentioning, like, for athletes specifically, taking about a half a teaspoon of salt 20 minutes before a workout, and you'll have the best workout of your life. You'll have a huge pump, increased blood flow, and the reduced lactic acid buildup during your workout. And I've been doing that actually for a while now, but when he came on and said that just reaffirmed, like, okay, that I'm doing something right here. Because a lot of us have been so afraid of salt for so long, kind of like fat. Like, we've been so afraid of fat for so long, and people aren't eating it, and people aren't adding in any salt to their diets, and it's actually causing a lot of health problems because of the lack of those nutrients.
And that's especially true when you go from like a fully processed, diet, and now you're preparing your own foods. And in the United States, the number one source for salt is bread. So when you go, because just think about it, you're putting flour and water. That's basically it, And in order for you to make it taste decent, you have to put salt. So one of the first things that when you're trying to lose weight or get healthier, that one of the things first things that you cut is bread and potato chips and all of these salty things. So you stop adding salt to your food, and now you have no source of salt. And it's so funny, because like whenever you're like doing a fast and you take some salt, it almost tastes sweet.
Yeah,
it tastes
does.
good, especially those good salts like the pink Himalayan and all those. Oh man, and like it lifts you up.
Real salt, yeah,
real salt,
yeah.
So Drew, what are some of the Facebook groups where people can contact you and just follow your stuff and maybe receive some help from other people who are trying to go from fat to fit?
Yeah, so my Facebook page is Fit2Fat2Fit, and I have me and a couple other assistants that help run that page. So they're on my team, and they are the ones that kind of help me get back to people if I don't have time. So if you just go to Fit2Fat2Fit on Facebook and reach out to me there, we'll get back to you. Twitter and Instagram as well. Like, I'm very responsive on those too. And that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. Like, if people wanted to, be a part of these groups.
And you mentioned a TV show.
Yes. So Fit2Fat2Fit was my journey, right? And I did that. And now there's a TV show where instead of me doing it, now I coach other trainers through this process. So I call it my Fit2Fat2Fit movement of paying it forward with other trainers, going through this process of getting fat on purpose, right, for 4 months. I did it for 6 months. They lose the weight with their overweight client, and together as a team, they have to lose the weight together, but now they're a fat trainer. It's a process that's humbling. They learn empathy, respect, and a better understanding for their clients. And man, if people in the fitness industry could experience this, if everyone could experience it, we wouldn't be so judgmental and so hardcore about no excuses and just do it. And that kind of mentality, which kind of separates and pushes people away from that industry, in my opinion. If we can be more empathetic, we're going to be able to impact so many more people's lives, especially as trainers or coaches. If we can understand more the mental and emotional side of transformation, because if you've never been overweight, it's so easy just to be like, look, just do the meal plans and the workouts. What's wrong with you? It's not that hard. But once you understand the mental emotional side a little bit better, that's where I think some real change can start to happen.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's especially what you said about if you've never been unhealthy, if you don't understand that, pain is subjective, like there is no way to truly quantify pain, to emotions, what, I might, look really healthy or really sick, and I'm not doing the exercise because I'm in pain, and then and you can't quantify that, So being able to experience and walk that walk, it must be very humbling.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's good for the trainers to go through it, in my opinion, because then there's less judgment after that, right? There's less. They're like, oh, okay, I get why it's so hard for people, and they come through this experience so humbled. And so, anyway, season 1 was on A&E last year. Season 2 is coming up in the near future. I can't announce the date yet, but it's coming up soon, and hopefully there'll be season 3. So stay in touch, and I'll keep you posted.
Awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much for giving me this interview. Any conferences? Any appearances?
I am traveling to Vegas in September and then Pittsburgh as well. Those are my next speaking engagements.
Awesome, man.
And in October, I do have my first ever Fit2Fat2Fit cruise. I'm super excited about. I've never been on a cruise in my life, but I'm going to have a first Fit2Fat2Fit / keto cruise. So people that are doing my Fit2Fat2Fit program or my keto program can join us on a cruise in the Bahamas. It's a 4-day cruise. I think it's just Fit2Fat2FitCruise.com if you want to come mingle with me in person, hang out, and we'll have a cool.
Are you going to have other speakers on the cruise?
Yes, possibly, but I haven't announced who yet. But I am.
Good. Well, dude, we're gonna cross paths again, and we're gonna be, hopefully I can, if I have any keto questions, I can shoot you in any of my future patients, and hopefully, we can just change the world, man.
Yeah, well, thank you, Guillermo. I really appreciate it, man, and keep doing what you're doing. You're only in Arizona. That's not too far, right?
It's not too far, man.
It's not too far.
Yeah, we should meet at the Narrows, man, and just hike the Narrows.
Oh, I think I might do that this summer, man. I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, let me know. I'm dying to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you come up to Salt Lake, you have to take me to that pizza place.
Yeah, Cerebello's. We'll go to Cerebello's. Well, dude, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay, have a good one.